Hello. Good. So I'm Jean-Paul SMETS from EUCLIDIA, and we'll start the presentation. Next slide. Next slide. So you can take a screenshot of this page if you want to later have a look at the presentation with the QR code. Next slide. My talk will have three parts. First part is what is EUCLIDIA? Second part, we'll see that most cloud technologies, if not all, were created in Europe, and we have a very large range of technology providers in Europe that can be used to create any cloud. And the last part in my presentation will be to provide solution for governments to get 100% strategic autonomy on the cloud. Next slide. So, what is EUCLIDIA? EUCLIDIA is an alliance of cloud industrials. There are currently 23 companies and it's growing. And the companies are located in at least 6 different countries. We hope to cover all Europe soon. Next slide. So, EUCLIDIA members are cloud industrials, which means there are certain criteria to be a member. You must be obviously a cloud industrial. It's okay to be a cloud provider, but you should also be a cloud industrial. You should be European based. Your company should be owned by people who are also based in Europe, and you should be ready to license your technology, which means a full system and source code and everything, to a government, not necessarily as open source, but at least as license source. To make things clear, the difference between a cloud industrial and a cloud provider is similar to the difference between a telecom vendor and a telecom operator. For example, Ericsson is a telecom vendor, whereas Telefonica is a telecom operator. For cloud, it's the same. Nextcloud, which is a member of EUCLIDIA, is a cloud industrial. Orange, which services use, for example, Huawei technology, is a cloud provider. And of course, obviously, Huawei technology was not created by Orange. So what makes a cloud industrial different is that a cloud industrial creates original technology that can be used by cloud providers. Next slide. We also have members that are not cloud industrials. Associated members, such as Aquaray, are using cloud technologies created in Europe, and we have partner organizations such as the National Council of Free Software in France, or the European Association of Next Generation Telecom Innovators, or the Free Software Endowment Fund, that are partner organizations and help with the logistic, dissemination, and organization. Next slide. So some people sometimes ask us what's the difference between EUCLIDIA and GAIAX. In EUCLIDIA, members are only European companies, and the board members are all the CEOs of the European companies, the CEOs themselves. In GAIAX, you will find executives, not necessarily the CEO, and not necessarily from European companies, and not necessarily from companies using European technologies. The members of EUCLIDIA are all European-based with your European shareholders, and they all create European technologies. In GAIAX, you will find, especially in the board, lots of users of technologies provided by other companies. And in EUCLIDIA, our main goal is to accelerate the adoption of cloud technologies created in Europe, whereas in GAIAX, there's a stronger focus maybe on compliance. So the two organizations are not opposing, they are actually complementary. Next slide. Cloud was created in Europe, and to us, the inventor of cloud, he's called Mark Burgess. It's actually in 1991, not even in 1993, that he defined the principle of promise theory. The idea is to automate a large set of services distributed on a large set of computers in such a way that they self-converge, self-repair, self-organize. This is nearly 30 years old. And he's not alone. Next slide. Europe has many other inventors of cloud. For example, containers have their base in 1999 with Paul Hennig-Kamp from Denmark. Open source virtualization at the same time from Cambridge University with Xen or Fabrice Bellard, QMU in France. The first collaboration workspace was in 2004 with JamesPot. Web 2.0 dashboard were created in 2005 by NetVibes. The first platform as a service in UK by Photango. And we can keep on like that with, for example, 5G virtualization, database orchestration. Most, if not all, cloud technologies were actually created in Europe. Next slide. And we have more than 100 European cloud technology companies providing virtually anything you can imagine to build any kind of cloud. The list is ever growing. We are now making a directory of all those European cloud technology providers. Next slide. So one question we often hear is European cloud technology ready? So the answer is yes. And for that, we have created 7 offers to governments willing to have full strategic autonomy. Each other has an infrastructure as a service part, platform as a service part, and workspace part. So this is a bit similar to the scope of AWS and Office 365. And those 7 offers are provided by actual cloud providers, Aquaray, Clever Cloud, RapidSpace, Scaleway, who ensure that if a government licenses the whole setup, the government will be able to run a complete cloud solution on-premise with the guarantee that it is a true cloud, truly based on European technology. Some of the solutions are fully open source, other are licensed source. The setup cost is about €1 million and the yearly cost is €1 million. And this is, I think, less than 1,000 cheaper than the current investment that are targeted at cloud by some European projects. So roughly, everything exists already in Europe to make your own sovereign cloud. Next slide. Okay. So one question that we are sometimes a bit worried about are subsidies. Should Europe subsidize US technology, which is what we see happening currently with the vast majority of projects that are being actually planned in Europe. And we think no, because there are actually very competitive European technologies, because many projects that are being subsidized and based on American technology don't bring much innovation, and because we think that subsidizing US technology for projects with nearly no innovation is a violation of the Rome Treaty. Next slide. Should Europe buy European cloud technology? Because currently most of the budgets in Europe are spent on US technologies. We think Europe, yes, should buy European technology because public purchase are very efficient, more than subsidies, to accelerate industry, because that's the way United States is doing with the Small Business Act, because that's the way United States is doing with the Buy American Act, and because that's the way US is doing with the JEDI project by the Department of Defense. And focusing on European technology in public tenders does not violate the Rome Treaty. Thank you.